afternoon, everybody. What's going on, everybody? Monday, March 9th, 2026. My name is Kevin Smith. Thank you so much for tuning into Loud Majority Live. We got a jam-packed show for you guys today. An Islamic terror attack thwarted in New York by the terrorists' own stupidity. Some major updates on that one. Turns out, not only should their parents not have been in the country in the first place, but they were also unbelievably wealthy. I guess that's easy to do when you don't have to pay for anything. We'll get into all of that, all the updates from that scenario. Also, the mayor of New York's wife gets in a little bit of trouble as she likes completely anti-Semitic social media posts, and not like Israel stuff. I mean like Jewish stuff. So we'll get into that. And a Long Island school teacher is allowed to keep her job after hoping that some of her students die a slow, painful death for the great crime of supporting Donald Trump. That's right. So for my Long Island crowd, just know that it's entirely possible this lunatic will one day be teaching your children. And she's allowed to keep her job because nobody stands up to the teachers union. Ever. Let's dive into all the good stuff. Before we get started, though, guys, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place. Pop the live chat up onto the screen, wherever it is you guys may be watching. Do me a favor and hit that share button. We're going to be having some fun today at the expense of dumb liberals, radical Islamic mayors, jackasses from the teachers union, and the Legal Aid Society. Something many of you probably haven't heard of before, but they are the bane of the existence of the nonprofit industrial complex that burdens our society. How is everybody doing today? Shout out to everybody watching on all the chats. Ken Carmen, what's up? Jeanette, P.I. Barnes, how are you? Frank, what's happening? Steve, how we doing? Nancy, everybody good? AC Knight, what's happening? Once again, guys, share the video out wherever it is you are watching from. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place because there was giant breaking news over the weekend. So, let's dive in. Let's dive right on in because there were protests in New York City last weekend. Spoiler alert, there were protests in New York City every weekend. They're all protesting something. If you get like 17 angry people, you just march down the street. Nobody seems to care. So Jake Lang, for whatever you think about him, some people like him, some people don't, whatever. This isn't really a critique on Jake and what he does. Showed up to a protest in New York City with a goat. Protesting Islam. Little on the nose there, Jake, if I'm being honest with you. But, subtlety is not his strong point. For sure, naturally, there was a counter-protest against Jake. People were very, very upset. And then all of a sudden, some lunatic decided to throw something into the crowd. Now, the irony of the entire thing is that when said lunatic threw device into the crowd, he interrupted what could only be described as perhaps the most liberal moment in the history of the Democrats, in the history of liberalism, in the history of the awfuls, in the history of people who allow their own self-loathing to destroy themselves. So what we have here, we have a guy, looks vegan. I'm going to roll the dice here. Flip a coin. Looks vegan, yelling on a bullhorn that everyone is welcome here. Everyone is welcome here. As a radical Islamic terrorist throws a homemade bomb over his shoulder.
We were born and raised in New York, and we want everyone here to stay in New York. You don't get to come from outside and then tell everyone else.
sorry, that might be the most liberal thing I've ever seen in my entire... Everyone is welcome here, including the 19-year-old ISIS-inspired radical jihadist who's running up behind me and throwing a bomb over my shoulder. Now, luckily for the people of New York and the people who are out protesting, even for the people who are out counter-protesting, because you've got a right to do both here in America, luckily, the two people who decided to do this are both really, really, really dumb, and they don't know how to set up a device. Now, as we found out later from Paul Morrow over on Fox News, these were not your, like, run-of-the-mill crock-pot-style Boston Marathon bombs, okay? Apparently, these were incredibly, like, difficult bombs to set up. You can't just go to the store and buy the stuff that is needed for this.
Fox News has learned of a disturbing development involving the type of explosive used in the attempted attack and just how dangerous it is. Let's bring in retired NYPD Inspector Paul Morrow, who has more information on this device that was found. So it was a homemade device, Paul, but not necessarily a cheesy one, in other words.
No, not at all, John. And I have to tell you, having done about 15 years worth of this kind of work, counterterrorism work, this is a bit of a game changer. First of all, let me start by saying New York City got extremely lucky yesterday. TATP is enormously volatile. It is not very stable. It's extremely powerful. And it is the footprint, and if you go by past events, of serious bombing attacks. The London 7/7 attacks, Richard Reed's attempt on a plane. Many of us remember the Ariana Grande attacks outside the Manchester Arena. These are situations where you're well into double figures of people killed, never mind injured. So this was a very, very serious attempt, much more serious, I would argue, than it likely seemed to many right initially. And as to why they didn't detonate, in light of the fact that they were charged the way they were, is going to be something I'm sure that the federal authorities are going to be looking at very closely as they investigate these two perps.
Yeah, and hats off to the New York City Police Department for running in and stopping those attacks. They didn't just run away or go to a place of safety.
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at, they didn't know what they were into there. All they saw was something that was smoking. For all they know, this thing is extremely powerful, but they ran towards it. Look, that's what your instincts are as a police officer. That's what you're supposed to do, but that doesn't mean it is any less heroic. So hats off to those guys, and thank God the devices didn't detonate. It really comes down to now, why? Was it an incomplete chemical formula? Were somehow or other the balances off? You know, the mixture was a little bit too much of this, a little bit less of that. It's not a simple thing to make correctly, very clearly, and it's also extremely dangerous to handle. So this really could have been a much worse situation.
So where did they get it? I mean, is TATP something that you can, you know, go to a hardware store and buy the chemicals and make, or is it something they probably brought in from somewhere else?
No, you can make you can get the chemicals, but you got to know how to mix them. You got to know how to mix them in the right proportions. And as I said, it's a volatile substance, and the footprint for this kind of thing previously has been the major terrorist organizations that we contended with for so long after 9/11. I'm talking about things like Al-Qaeda and ISIS. And as far as I can remember, John, and I'm taxing my memory, I don't recall it ever being attempted here on the continental United States.
Well, Paul Morrow, there's a first time for everything. There's a first time for everything. Of course, if there's a first time for everything, there's, of course, always a second time for everything. So, turns out, NYPD started looking around. Never going to believe it. They built one more of them.
We continue to follow a developing situation outside Gracie Mansion, the official home of New York City's mayor, who at this time is Zoran Mamdani. The NYPD says it is now investigating a suspicious device found inside a vehicle. This comes after two men were arrested yesterday for throwing improvised explosive devices during two dueling protests near the mayor's mansion.
Oh, what, you mean a second device? Well, if there's a second, if there's a first, stands to reason there'd be a second. Stands to reason there'd be a third. Never gonna believe it. Never gonna believe it. Of course, now, I don't know if you guys caught the phrase that was used as one of the alleged suspects was put into the police car. But Fox News was able to capture this tiny little moment that may be able to ascertain, may be able to figure out why exactly they did this.
Avenue right near East 79th Street, and just behind me between 81st and 82nd Streets are where the NYPD located a suspicious device and safely removed it. I'm going to step out of the way and give you guys a better view. That device was found inside a vehicle believed to belong to two suspects now in federal custody. So to recap, a total of 3 devices have been recovered in this neighborhood since yesterday afternoon. 2 of the devices were ignited and thrown yesterday during dueling protests near Gracie Mansion, where New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani lives. Thankfully, no one was hurt. But we've learned from high-level sources that one of the devices contained a powerful explosive known as TATP. Fox News contributor Paul Morrow says this is an explosive that has been used in other high-profile, deadly terrorist attacks across the globe.
New York City is volatile. It is, and if you go.
Amir Balat and Ibrahim Qayyumi are now reportedly in federal custody being interviewed by the FBI in connection to the devices. Our Bill Malusian has learned that Balat's parents are naturalized U.S. citizens from Turkey and Qayyumi's parents are naturalized citizens from Afghanistan. One of the suspects was captured saying this as he was taken into custody.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't see that coming. I didn't see that coming from about 1,000 miles away. Right. Oh, naturalized from Turkey and naturalized from Afghanistan. Son being put into a police car, yelling what? Let's go Mets? No. No, why would they be yelling that? No, but of course we got to yell God is great before we try to blow up a bunch of random people on the street. Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here whatsoever. But guys, remember, this has nothing to do with what it very obviously has everything to do with. Nothing. It has nothing to do with it. I can't say it. I need you all to make the assumption on your own because then dumbasses will write letters. However, it is clearly has something to do with exactly what you know it has to do with. And of course, that would be white supremacy.
Of us were home at the time. This was a vile protest rooted in white supremacy entitled Stop the Islamic Takeover of New York City. I'm the first Muslim mayor of our city. Anti-Muslim bigotry is nothing new to me, nor is it anything new for the 1 million or so Muslim New Yorkers who know this city as our home. While I found this protest appalling, I will not waver in my belief that it should be allowed to happen. Ours.
What was that? So, let me just get this straight, Zoltan. Islamophobia and white supremacy is what led 2 guys to be radicalized by ISIS and throw homemade bombs into a crowd. You're such a victim, honey. You're such a victim. Oh, poor you. Poor you. Now, look, I understand why these 2 young guys were upset. I absolutely get it. America has treated them very unfairly. Very unfairly. So unfairly that apparently their parents live in a $2.5 million mansion in Pennsylvania. That's right. The naturalized Afghani citizens. Y'all ready for this? I'm going to show you a picture of their house just so you can see how bad America has been to these people. America, the evil, evil white supremacist country, allows people who have no right to be in this damn country in the first place to live in a house. Oh, that's a little big. Let's make that a little smaller. In a house that looks like this. Right. Us are this evil American system we have here that a bunch of people with no right to be in the country in the first place can live in this palace in Bucks County. Oh, right. That's right. That's right, the parents of one of the alleged ISIS-loving mopes who tried to detonate a bomb near Gracie Mansion live in a $2.25 million house. Right. Alleged bomber Ibrahim Kanumi. His family lives in a 5,800 square foot mansion with 6 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms in the scenic, beautiful community of Newtown, Pennsylvania. Police say Kawumi and his friend Amir Balat traveled from their Buck County enclave to attend the counter-protest of right-wing nut Jake Lang's anti-Islam protest outside of the mayor's mansion. Now, to be clear, I have staged protests in New York City. I've done it a lot. Jake Lang had 19 people at it. 19 people caused 2 people in their teens to throw improvised homemade explosive devices into a crowd. The alleged terrorist acts, is from the New York Post, contrasts with the quiet, even well-to-do suburban neighborhoods where they were both brought up. Kwami's parents were naturalized between 2004 and 2009 after leaving war-torn Afghanistan. You're welcome, guys. You're welcome for welcoming you into this beautiful enclave of Newtown, Pennsylvania, only for your kids to try to set off a bomb on the Upper West Side. No big deal. Balit's parents hailed from Turkey and were naturalized in 2017, according to Fox News. Their home is a 3,200 square foot, 2-story, worth $700,000, according to records. Right. But remember, guys, it's not ISIS. It's no ideology whatsoever, except, of course, for white supremacy. Now, if you question Zoltan Mamdani about his own radicalism, well, he just won't answer those questions, because it turns out his wife, Rama Duwanji, whatever, he claims isn't a public figure and therefore should not be questioned in any way, shape, or form. But why would she be questioned? Well, it turns out the wife of Zohran Mamdani, Rama Duwanji, isn't a public figure despite receiving phoning media coverage is facing uproar after her social media postings celebrated the October 7th terrorist attack in Israel. The Democratic Socialist 34 was confronted about the events about his 29-year-old artist of a wife liking Instagram posts that shared graphic images of the terror group's murderous rampage. Just hours after the attack, she claimed that there was a mass rape hoax, which there wasn't, and then she liked the post talking about collective liberation. Oh, right. You mean the chick that wore $900 shoes to her husband's inauguration might be a bit of an asshole? What a shock. When questioned about it, Mamdani said, I, however, was elected to represent the 8.5 million people, and I believe that's my responsibility, because that role to answer questions about my thoughts and my politics and my stances. That's not a sentence. Dewani has been a mainstay in the public spotlight after recently appearing on the digital cover of New York Magazine in late December. You see, even though the taxpayers of New York are paying for her house, we're not allowed to question anything she does because, quote, she's not a public figure. Then you know what? Why doesn't she get her lazy ass up and go to work like the rest of the New Yorkers? That way she can afford $1,200 shoes when her husband taxes everyone slightly richer than they are. But you're not allowed to question that. The New York Times also penned several pieces about Duwanji, including profiling her artwork and fashion in the few months Mamdani's been in. Yeah, right, because nothing says well-to-do American couple like having a socialite wife who doesn't actually do anything, who gets to adorn the cover of New York Magazine. A once great institution, but like most magazines, they have gone by the wayside. But you can't question them. No. Can't question that. Federal charges just got, here we go. Lovely people, guys. Lovely people. Yeah. I'm not sure how America would have survived without this guy. You see, if we didn't let this guy's family into America, the Statue of Liberty would have cried. Or something. That poem that Emma Lazarus wrote that somebody carved into a rock like 150 years ago would be meaningless if we didn't let that into America. And then give them a $2.5 million house in a beautiful suburban neighborhood of Newtown, Pennsylvania. No. See, guys, while you struggle, while you work paycheck to paycheck, ungrateful SOBs like this kid who has no idea how good they actually have it will just bitch and moan and complain and try to blow people up. But remember, guys, I'm the problem. You're the problem. Collectively, we are all the problem. Not the problem, the problem. Not the problem, the problem. Yeah, I'm not quite sure about that one. Of course, the reason why these people are able to get away with the things that they get away with is because of an organization that many of you have never heard of before. If you've ever been to any left-wing protest, you are fully aware of these buffoons. We're going to get to them in 1 second. Before we do that, here's Jeremy.
Hey, everybody. If you're not familiar with, then let me introduce to you Armor Colostrum. Now, I didn't know what colostrum was up until a few years ago. I'd never even really heard of it. And then my wife turned me on to Armor Colostrum. And what colostrum does is it helps regrow your hair. Not gonna lie, that's the reason that I started looking into it. But then I started noticing some other things that I could benefit from. I used to get acid reflux very badly. I used to bloat very badly. It felt like I was 10 or 15 pounds heavier than I was until I made Armor Colostrum a part of my everyday schedule. And now things have changed so very much. Let me introduce to you what Armor Colostrum actually does and what it looks like. In a study measuring immune cell response to toxin, Armor Colostrum performed 32% stronger and faster than other colostrum companies. 400 plus bionutrients activated in your life, in your body, to help regrow hair, strengthen your gut health, regrow your nails, toenails, and fingernails healthy, get rid of fungus, stop bloating, and more. And now you can get yours right now for up to $18 off each and every purchase at tryarmra.com. Promo code LFATV. Click the apply button once you've entered the code and watch your discount fall off. That is tryarmra.com/LFATV. Order now.
Guys, head on over to tryarmra.com and use promo code LFATV. That's tryarmra.com and use code LFATV. So, there's an organization that many of you have probably not heard of before. It's called the Legal Aid Society. And what they do is they go to left-wing protests and they wear these really stupid neon green hats. They're like these cheap, crappy hats. And they wait for people to get arrested. And when they do, they take down their name and they take down their number and they take down the badge number of the police officer arresting them. Then they go to the precinct and they provide them with free legal aid so that they don't screw up an interrogation or say something they ought not say. Of course, the irony of the whole thing is they never seem to show up to right-wing protests, of course, because they're a Soros-funded organization. But listen to what happened when the police attempted to arrest a guy who was throwing the homemade improvised explosive device on behalf of ISIS into a crowd in New York City. Does someone have your emergency contact? Yeah, that's right, because the people at the Legal Aid Society want to make sure they do everything they possibly can do to prevent the Islamic terrorist who threw the bomb from facing any sort of justice or talking in an interrogation room and maybe giving away the ball that he did it on behalf of a foreign terrorist organization, despite the fact that America has given him and his family everything that American citizens will never have. The Legal Aid Society makes sure they go out and they stand up for the rights of radical jihadists. Now, this is nothing new in the city of New York. This happens all over the place. And when I was at the DNC in Chicago, you couldn't walk off the street without tripping over one of these people. Normally, they're like first and second year lawyers that really don't have any idea what they're doing and they can only handle like speeding tickets. But a basic interrogation, I mean, it's not like that scene from Landmen or anything where like actually good lawyers go in and protect people who are being persecuted for any sort of way. No, the Legal Aid Society just jumps in to make sure they stand up for the rights of radical jihadists. You know what? Here's the problem with this, okay? And it is something that the radical jihadists know. They know that if foreign terrorists may have a hard time getting over here, but if they can radicalize homegrown Americans who, I don't know, feel pissed off at the system even though they've gotten everything, they know there's really nothing we can do about this. And that's the secret that nobody really wants to admit to. That these sort of New York got lucky this time because these people were dumb. They were dumb. I mean, quite frankly, these guys probably just got done playing Minecraft online for like 400 hours right before they went to go set off their ridiculous bombs. Now, if you tuned into like NBC News, you would have a very different take. You would have a very different take on what actually happened during this situation. You see, because NBC News decided they were going to put out this headline. Let me pull this. I'm going to have to resize it. Let's check this out here. Multiple arrests made after suspicious devices found outside Gracie Mansion, the home of Mayor Zoran Mamdani, during an anti-Islam rally and counter-protest. Now, if you just read that headline and didn't see the preponderance of information I gave you before this, you would think someone who was against Islam threw the bombs at a protest outside of Gracie Mansion. It's not about what they tell you, it's about what they don't tell you. And this was a conscious decision made by NBC News. It's almost hard to believe we don't believe you people anymore. Because if all you read was this headline, you would think someone who is against Islam tried to blow up the mayor, which is not what happened. Which is not what happened at all, as Jessica Tisch pointed out earlier today. It turns out, not only did they do it on behalf of ISIS, but they did it, in fact, to kill all the infidels.
As alleged, both defendants have admitted that they acted on Saturday because of ISIS. As Qayyumi was being placed into an NYPD vehicle following his arrest, a person in the crowd asked why he had done this. As shown on NYPD body-worn camera footage referenced in the complaint, Qayyumi responded with ISIS. And at the precinct, after being advised of his Miranda rights and waiving those rights, Qayyumi said in recorded post-arrest statements that he had watched ISIS propaganda on his phone and that his actions that day were partly inspired by ISIS. The complaint also details statements made by Amir Balat after his arrest. En route to the NYPD precinct, Balat made spontaneous statements without being questioned by NYPD officers that were captured on body-worn camera footage. He said, "This isn't a religion that just stands when people talk about the blessed name of the Prophet. We take action, as well as, if I didn't do it, someone else will come and do it." And later, after waiving his rights, he requested paper and wrote a message declaring in part, "I pledge my allegiance to the Islamic State. Die in your rage, you kuffar." Now, "die in your rage" is a commonly known ISIS slogan, and kuffar is an Arabic term that refers to non-believers. He also told investigators that he had hoped to carry out an attack even bigger than the Boston Marathon bombing, which he noted resulted in only 3 deaths. These statements, as set forth in the complaint, make clear that this was not random violence. This was a planned attack motivated by extremist ideology and inspired by a violent foreign terrorist organization. The complaint alleges not only why the defendants acted, but how. Preliminary testing has determined that one of the devices contained triacetone triperoxide, or TATP, also commonly referred to as Mother of Satan, a highly volatile explosive that has been used in multiple terrorist attacks over the last decade. As we have previously discussed.
Now, there is an idea of the self-loathing liberal. And the self-loathing liberal will be the cause of their own death because they would rather be killed by a radical jihadist than admit that there is radical jihadism anywhere in the world. Do you need an example of this? You remember that ridiculous vegan with the bullhorn before that I showed you? In case you forgot, here he is again.
We were born and raised in New York, and we want everyone here to stay in New York. You don't get to come from outside and then tell everyone else.
Well, that man's name is Walter Masterson. How do I know that? Because this dipshit literally couple minutes after this video went viral, decided to tweet out the video. Oh, let me pull this down a little. I was in the middle of saying, as a born and raised New Yorker, everyone is welcome into the city. And then, after the radical Islamic jihadist decided to throw a bomb over his shoulder, he decided to tweet out, and still stand by it. As a born and raised New Yorker, everyone is welcome here. So after the radical Islamic jihadist threw a homemade bomb over this dude's shoulder, he still stands by what he said. It is that sort of arrogant liberalism that is going to get us all killed. Because the irony, of course, of the whole situation is that as you yell, everyone is welcome here, someone who isn't from New York throws a bomb over your shoulder. And then you say, I stand by it. I stand by it. Now, I don't want anything bad to happen to this guy, but on some level, what would have to happen? What would have to happen for Walter Masterson to go, ooh, maybe I got this one wrong? What would have to happen? I don't know. Of course, the irony of the whole thing is that his Twitter bio says he is a comedian, even though the only thing I can find funny is his political stances. Now, some of you may think this is the problem. Some of you may think that it is just random extremist elected officials hamstringing the police department or dumb liberal protesters who think that if they're just nice enough to people who hate them, that perhaps they won't be killed. Also, you might think that. But what if I were to tell you that it's in every place and every neighborhood and every occupation? It's even in your child's classrooms. Now, to the educated viewer who watches this show on a regular basis, you're not going to be shocked by the next story. But judging from the people in my comment section, like this guy, let's see, Don Hupper, who decided to call me a fat R word. Apparently, I'm not allowed to say that word anymore. Don, I hope you're still here so that we can read this story aloud. Let's see this. There's a school district on Long Island called Three Villages. It's like Stony Brook and Setauket and that sort of area if you're familiar with the area. Well, there's a teacher that teaches there who went on social media and said that she hopes every Trump supporter dies a slow, painful death. Now, some of her students may be a Trump supporter. Some of her students may be a part of Turning Point USA. Some of her students may have parents who voted for Trump. I know because I was at the damn school board meetings with all of them. I know that. Well, it turns out after she posted this, guess what happened to her? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. That's right. According to Newsday, the Three Village teacher who wished death to Trump supporters on Facebook gets to keep her job. Gets to keep her job, says an arbitrator, which, if it went to arbitration, that means for the last 2 years, this woman has been pulled out of the classroom and now will receive full back pay. That's right. So if you live in Stony Brook or you live in Sauget or you live in any of those areas up there, right on like the end of Nichols Road all the way up north, it's very possible that your child's teacher hopes they die. That's right. We're going to read this. It's from Newsday, a liberal rag. So you'll have to excuse the syntax in which this is being written in. It's not being covered anywhere else, so we'll see. An arbitrator rejected the Three Village School District's attempt to terminate a tenured science teacher for posting on her private Facebook page. Wait a minute, her private Facebook page? A desire for Trump, or for supporters of Donald Trump to suffer a slow and painful death. She said, quote, "America is no longer the land of the free," said Pamela Pahuja. Yeah, I'm saying that wrong. In a since-deleted post, which criticized U.S. ICE raids, including a descriptive account of the slow demise. Quote, "You slowly wither away while struggling to grasp, all you Trump supporters." While struggling to gasp. It's a spelling mistake in the damn thing. The state-appointed arbitrator instead issued a 3-month unpaid suspension. Oh, Lord. How did the teachers union ever allow that? Citing her genuine remorse and her 2 decades worth of exemplary teaching without any prior disciplinary record. Yeah, maybe that's because the teachers union got all that shit pushed under the rug. The arbitrator's 42-page decision obtained by Newsday last week from the state education department following a records request illustrates a highly charged political climate under Trump while serving as another example of the high threshold that school districts have to terminate a tenured teacher. That's right, because for those of you who live in normal places, not New York, this is going to come as a shock to a lot of you. But here in New York, if you're a shitty teacher, and there are a lot of great teachers. I had a lot of good ones. I know a lot of great ones. But just like any other profession, there are good ones and there are bad ones. But I want you to think about this for imagine your favorite sports team wasn't allowed to fire the crappiest player, or, in this case, the biggest asshole on your team because a state arbitrator decided, well, you know what, things were okay before. The arbitrator ordered that the teacher who taught science at R.C. Murphy Middle School in Stony Brook to undergo sensitivity training funded by the district. So not only did she not lose her job, but she has to go to taxpayer-funded sensitivity training. I need to find out when and where that sensitivity training had happened and go to it. The ruling was issued last August, and the school board approved it days later. That's right. The Three Village spokesperson declined to comment on the arbitrator's ruling. Go figure. The teacher, I'm not going to keep mispronouncing her name because some idiot's going to claim I'm trying to be racist. I don't know what her name is, so I can't pronounce it. What are you going to do? Go by Jones. What do you want? According to the arbitrator's report, she insists she had an understandably emotional reaction to Trump, and therefore wished that some of her students who may support Trump die a slow, painful death. But somebody want to remind me how I'm the problem? I'm the problem. See, this goes hand in hand with the Zoran Mamdani comments. It's not the issue That's the problem. It's not the fact that this teacher wished that her students would die a slow, painful death, and it's not the fact that two Islamic jihadists who decided to throw a bomb into a crowd after being given everything for free by America. Those aren't the problems. The problem is you noticed. That's the problem here. The arbitrator wrote, you're going to love this one. The arbitrator wrote that she admits that her stress and emotional reaction to the forthcoming raids led her to make a poor decision to copy and paste a friend's Facebook post onto her page, saying she didn't really fully read the post before commenting on it. She's a science teacher. I mean, if any teacher is going to read the full scope of something, you would think it's somebody working in a damn chemistry lab. But hey, what the hell do I know? Not like I ever went to chemistry anyway. Although it was determined that her actions did not raise to the level of termination, he said that she must be held accountable for reposting such a divisive and disturbing post on Facebook. Right. 3 months unpaid. Oh, so you mean like her summer vacation? Or, never having to work a weekend for 20 years. Or, getting arbitrary days off for absolutely no reason. Or just a random week in February. Like, for those of you who don't live in New York, you have no idea what it's like dealing with people who know they can never be fired. The only way in New York to be fired as a teacher, and this is not like a euphemism, this is not like me being exaggeratory here, the only way to be fired in New York if you're a teacher is if you sleep with a student. You could just be riding your time out, collecting a $200,000 a year paycheck, not teaching kids. They could be getting dumber and dumber by the day, failing test scores more and more each year, but you keep getting raises. But remember, that's not the problem. The problem is people like me noticed. And you can ask Sean when you're sitting in his comment section. Ask Sean tomorrow what happened to the two of us when we dare crossed the teachers union. We got visits from teacher union reps at our jobs, like trying to intimidate us. And Sean, he'll tell you, wait a minute, I think somebody from that school district went and visited Sean. Guys, ask him tomorrow. I think it was that school district. It might have been Ward Melville, not sure. You get put on anti-government extremism lists. But this random science teacher, literally nothing happens to her. 3 months of unpaid leave. Oh, Lord. Tell you what, I'm going to find a kid in that class and have him wear a fucking body camera. I'll tell you that right now. You're the problem for noticing. It's not the fact that the mayor's wife claimed that October 7th was a complete hoax. No, that's not the problem. It's not the problem that two teenage jihadists who were radicalized on Minecraft or one of these other goofy-ass games that these kids play, or Reddit, like the bottom dregs of the internet. It's not that. It's the fact that you noticed. It's a problem that and it all goes into one thing. It all comes back to the same thing, is that if you stand up for things that are illiberal, if you stand up against these radicals, if you stand up for it, you're labeled the bad guy. You're labeled the bad guy. This is a glowing piece from Newsday. A glowing piece. Similar cases in which teachers face scrutiny for politically charged social media posts have occurred on Long Island and nationwide, including one West Hampton teacher who celebrated the death of Charlie Kirk. And do you know what happened to that teacher? Nothing. That's right. But this teacher decides that she can make $170,000 a year. But I'm the bad guy. Here we go. Here we go. Let's play a little game. Here we go. Let's, here you go. Let's read an article about the way Newsday categorized me. All right, there we go. I just read you the Newsday article in which a teacher who wished death upon her students and her students' families was categorized. Now, I'll read you an article about what they wrote about me. Here you go. Hey, look, there's Sean. There's Sean. Great ass from behind. The Southern Poverty Law Center monitors hate groups and seeks to be a catalyst for racial justice. Hey, look, there we are. Y'all can read that for yourselves. See, you can't criticize the communists. No, no, no. No, 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 you can't do that. But I'm the problem. I just wish more people had the balls to stand up for the things that are actually right. Oh, hey, great news. This will pull us into the next segment. Because did you know that everything was going to die today because of oil prices? Turns out, not happening. We'll get to that in 1 second. It's frustrating. It's frustrating that I'm seen as the bad guy when you have literal school teachers wishing that their students would die a slow, painful death and nothing happens to them. But I put out a spicy meme the other day about hot Persian women and had to explain myself to like 400 people. You guys enjoying the weather here on Long Island? It's hot as balls outside right now. 60 degrees. I'm loving it. We'll be back in 1 second with, did you know that the great oil collapse of 2026 happened? Yeah, none of you noticed. Mike Lindell.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 six-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sale because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Guys, head on over to MyPillow.com and use promo code LOUD. That's MyPillow.com, promo code LOUD. For up to 80% off everything on the website. That's MyPillow.com, promo code LOUD. So, did you guys survive the great oil shortage of 2026? I know I did. It was a rough 9 hours. It certainly was a rough 9 hours. But with markets opening down nearly 2% today. 2% in the morning. Holy crap. The world is ending. The world is ending. Oil prices may hit $100 a gallon, $100 a barrel. Oh, the world is ending. Sure, if oil prices did hit $100 a barrel, it would still be $20 less a barrel than it was in January of 2022 when Joe Biden was in office. But we're not going to talk about that. We call that Newsom math. We call that Newsom math. Well, it turns out that the markets starting down 2% today have now rebounded and are back into the green. Because it turns out everyone on Wall Street is a panicking. And if you were smart, like this guy, you saw a 2% drop in the market this morning and went, holy crap. Now all my favorite stocks are at a discount. And you buy and you buy and you buy and you buy. You buy the dip, baby. That's not financial advice. Do your own research before making any financial decisions. Got to make sure I say that for the lawyers. But it turns out all of this is over Iran. Iran, well, we are kicking ass and taking names. Now, I am not a big fan of the war. I've made that very clear. But if President Trump keeps to what he is saying, that this will be a 1 to 2 month thing, bingo, bango, get out, baby, I have no issue with that whatsoever. I've been arguing with people for the last several days about what this is going to mean for the midterms. I still believe this is going to be catastrophic, but we shall see. Some polls are beginning to tick upwards on Iran. The funniest man on CNN, Harry Enton, broke down those numbers yesterday.
Overall, public and those who are either currently or have served in the military. Take a look at this Fox News poll that came out during the past week. Net approval rating of the current U.S. military action against Iran. Look at that. Overall, Fox News shows a dead even split. But look at those who served in the military. Significantly higher support for the U.S. military action currently going on in Iran at plus 20 points. That should not be so much of a surprise because take a look at how they view Trump's foreign policy overall. Again, look at those who served in the U.S. military versus overall. If you look at Trump's foreign policy overall, the net approval rating on that per Fox News, those who served in the military, they like what's going on average. Look at that. The net approval rating plus 8 points for Trump's foreign policy. But look at those overall. Way down there at minus 20 points. We're talking about a nearly 30-point gap between those who served in the military and overall. And this split, when it comes to those who served in the military and overall, dates back to Trump's elections, all the way back to 2016. But let's look at the 2024 numbers. Look at this. 2024 results. Those who served in the military, Trump won them by, get this, 31 points. Kamala Harris actually won all other voters by 2 points. And that means, Johnny Berman, that means that Donald Trump only won in 2024 because of support from those who served in the military.
Now, I would assume, I think it would be a safe assumption to say that people who served in the military are probably going to be pro-Trump. They're probably going to be pro the strikes in Iran. The reasoning is many people have wanted or thought this should happen for quite some time. I am a bit less worry, one will say. I've been anti-war for quite some time, and I'm going to keep that position. Now, do I trust the president's team? I do. I trust Pete, and I trust General Kane. I trust Trump. If they say this is going to be a 2-month thing, I hope it is. I hope it is. That comes as the 7th American has now died in this conflict. One way or the other. How they're dying is a little bit different. They're not really telling you the reasons. It's not like they're being shot down out of the sky. Some of them have. Some of them have died on bases. But we're going to see what appetite the American people have for this war as this goes on, as it progresses. We shall see. We'll see about that. Guys, in just 1 second, we're going to talk about the LA Marathon. Let's talk about things I never thought I would ever talk about. The LA Marathon. Because something pretty awesome happened at the LA Marathon over the weekend. Before we get to that, guys, head on over to loudmajorityusa.com. That's loudmajorityusa.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out our shop. That is the best way to support this show and everything we've got going on over here. You guys can use promo code RUMBLE to get 20% off everything on the website. That's promo code RUMBLE to get 20% off everything on the website. We always do appreciate the support over here, guys. We can't do it without your help. Get your summer stuff early. We may be out of hoodie season. I don't know, but we could be. We very well could be. So let's talk about the LA Marathon. Something I never thought I would talk about because the idea of arbitrarily running for no real good reason for an extended period of time is something that befuddles me. I don't really understand why people would do this. Why not just take the bus? But LA has shown that they have gone peak participation trophy. What do I mean by that? Well, it turns out the LA Marathon is giving medals to people who didn't finish the race. That's right. All you got to do is sign up to be in the LA Marathon, and you still get a medal. Now, as I've said, I think running for no real reason, running like somebody's chasing you, is one of the dumbest things imaginable. It made sense when there was a time where there were no cars. But just running for a while and, having your nipples bleed and losing toenails doesn't sound like fun to me. Now, if that's something you're into, you're a weirdo. And that's okay, too. But let's discuss the participation trophy here. The LA Marathon has allowed participants this year to receive finisher medals, even if they didn't finish the race. Under the new decision, runners who reach mile 18 will be given the option to turn towards the finish line early rather than complete the 26.2-mile race. Quote, if you're having a tough day and want to end your race before 22.6 miles, you can choose to turn at mile 18 and head towards the finish line. You do not need to notify anyone of your decision, and you can opt to take this route at any time. Boy, that lady who cheated in the Boston Marathon, like 40 years ago, must be awfully pissed off. If you guys haven't seen that story, it is one of the funniest damn things ever. I don't remember what her name was. I'm sure the chat will let me know. You guys will remember. Some lady started the Boston Marathon and finished like 10 minutes faster than the fastest person in the world. And it's because she took the bus halfway through it. That's hilarious. I can't imagine you going down, like, you get on the bus and you take it a few stops, you get off and you just keep running again. Quote, there's no shame in making the smart decision for your body. Now, I would say running until you lose your toenails is probably not a good decision for your body, but some people seem to do it. But that wasn't the biggest story out of the LA Marathon. I'm going to show you guys what happened at the finish line just because it's awesome. An American won the marathon, which is a shock in and of itself. But more than that is how he finished. Check this out, baby.
Wait, is he within eyesight from us?
He's in the last, I don't know.
Here he comes.
He comes right now.
Here he comes. So let's get right back down to the finish line so we can watch Michael cross the line here. Michael Kamau from Kenya.
Just over 2 hours and 11 minutes.
I'm just imagining a horse race now. Like, oh, he's coming around the outside. Here he comes up the center lane. And he gets through it and boom, look at that by a nose. I love it.
Wow.
And it is a photo finish for crowning of the 2026 A6 LA Marathon champion.
I'm not sure.
Nowhere, because we could only see just a little.
I got to tell you, I love every bit of that. I don't know what the hell that guy's name is, but I do love that finish coming up from the outside and winning the LA Marathon. If that's something you're into, I'm sure that moment will go down in sports history. So congratulations to whoever the hell that guy was. And I hope the guy who fell down is okay. The only thing more boring than running for an extended period of time is watching people run for an extended period of time. So my hat's off to you guys. Finished the marathon in like 2 hours and 10 minutes. That's stupid. That's wild. Wild. You know what else is wild? That Hannah Faulkner's coming up next right here on this network. I'll catch you guys back live tomorrow. Until then, everybody, stay loud.